This is Chris Carlson, and welcome to the Boulder Banking Podcast. My guest is Allyson Twiggs Dyer, founder of the Twiggs Group, an agency with in-depth experience creating marketing strategies for the banking industry. In this episode, we focus on all things marketing to include branding, websites, apps, email marketing, and social media. Allyson gives some great advice on what banks should be doing now and in the future. Hey, Allyson, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks, Chris. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, Allyson, I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. But before we get started, can you give us a brief background of Allyson Twiggs?
I'd love to. I've been a marketer most of my career. I had a 14-year career in tourism and destination marketing before I started my agency. And then before that, I played college basketball at the University of Arkansas and got a journalism degree. And I thought I was going to be the next Robin Roberts and be a sportscaster. For the young people out there, Robin Roberts used to be a sportscaster, not on a morning show. But that didn't happen for me. I actually kind of got the tourism bug and the marketing bug and enjoyed that a whole lot more than traveling around the country, putting a microphone in front of people's faces. And so in 2014, I decided to start my own thing, which was a marketing company. And I thought I would do tourism marketing. I really thought I would work with cities and attractions. But I met a really special young woman named Natalie Bartholomew. A lot of your listeners may know her as the girl banker. And I started working with her in her bank. And if you'd have told me when I started my agency that I would be working with banks, I would have said, oh gosh, no, like I wouldn't even have thought of that. And so she was my first banker to work with. And then we quickly grew our friendship and we helped build her brand, the Girl Banker. And then I've just been working with banks and even GSBC Banking School ever since.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the Twiggs Group and specifically how you're serving the banking industry.
So the Twiggs Group, like I said, we've been around since 2014. We're just a boutique marketing agency. We're a small but nimble team. There's 6 of us. And with that first bank, we really kind of found our niche and we just kept working with more banks. And we really like to help banks who, typically have 1 or 2 people in the marketing office. We are able to just come in and be an extension of their team and really help them with their marketing efforts so that they can get back to doing what they need to do to help the bank's growth. And we just enjoy it so much. We do everything from graphic design to website updates, to email marketing, social media, all of the things that encompasses marketing. We help these banks really stand out on that corner where there are so many of them fighting for market share. We really just come in and become a part of that team and help them grow that market share.
Well, Allyson, I'd like to kind of drill down on some of the things you talked about. I'd like to start with branding. Could you give us, or maybe tell us, the difference between branding and marketing?
Sure thing. Branding is really who you are, who your business is, and why you created a business in the first place. And most people would understand branding as all the elements that make up a brand. So that's your logo, the font you use, the colors in your branding. Maybe you probably have a tagline that you use, and all of those things make up the brand. And then marketing is how you're going to push that brand out in front of the consumer. And so what most people really focus on is the how, the marketing, and social marketing, email marketing, digital marketing. There's tons of it out there. But what's really important before you ever think about marketing is your brand. And is the brand strong? And are you protecting it? And are you staying in your brand guidelines and not using a lot of colors that aren't supposed to be in your brand? Or are you doing weird things to your logo that you're not supposed to be doing? And I always tell people when I talk about branding is go look at the big guys. Go look at Apple and Nike and Starbucks and see what their branding looks like, because the reason they're who they are and some of the top companies in the world is because their brand is so strong and you recognize it anywhere. I don't even have to show you the word Nike. I can just show you the swoosh, and most humans would know that's the Nike brand.
Well, what do banks do well in branding?
Well, I think banks have got the logo, the colors, and the fonts down. They when they were all created, they gave themselves a name and they decided what their colors were going to be, green or blue. Typically, it seems like, and it may be a tagline, and they that was their brand. And then they went about marketing and telling people that they were open and ready to help customers. I think what some banks are struggling with is what I call, I always like to ask, who's the keeper of your brand? Who in your bank is making sure that the brand is protected, that the logo is presented as it should be? Who's updating the brand guide periodically to make sure that someone in the bank is not introducing a color that's not really in your brand, or out there using the logo in a way that's not on brand. So I think banks are good at that first part. They're good at having all the elements of the brand. I think some of them struggle to protect their brand or to keep in the brand guidelines. And man, that is so important. Like, you're never, ever, ever going to see the Nike swoosh not exactly straight on like it is, right? Like, it's never going to be upside down. It's not going to be crooked or whatever. And that's, banks need to take that same stringency with their branding.
What other mistakes do banks make in their branding efforts?
Well, I think it's kind of that same thing that they're just loosey goosey with it. I see this a lot. I had a bank marketer tell me one time that she was really frustrated that their branding was so similar to two other banks in their communities that when they all three sponsored something, they would line up those logos on a flyer. You couldn't even tell the banks apart almost. And I asked them, had they considered a rebrand? And their board just wasn't open to change. And I think that if you are struggling in your market to set yourself apart, whether there's five other farmers banks in your community or five other banks with the same color scheme you have, then it is a good idea to maybe have the conversation that it's time to rebrand and make your brand a little more noticeable and help it stand out a little more in the market.
How often do you see banks making a change like that? Or to your point, does the board just say, you know what, it's been this way forever, we're not going to make a change?
I don't see it very often. Two reasons: what you just said, the board, and the legacy there is hard to change. And I get that. Look, I don't want to go around and tell all these banks to change their brands. I'm only saying that if you feel like you're not standing out, or that you see competitors look a lot like you, then maybe you should think about that. The other thing is that it's expensive. I mean, think about everything at a bank that has their logo on it. You now have to change all of that. And it can be really, really pricey to do that.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, let's kind of move over to websites. What should banks be doing in this area?
Well, I really like to tell my bank clients that their website is their digital branch. And the website should be as welcoming and helpful as the humans in their physical branches. And I think at times, and I'll even say this to clients, I want you to look at your website and I want you to tell me if your website speaks to bankers or if it speaks to customers. Because I've seen a lot of bank websites that speak to bankers, because naturally the bankers helped a website company build the site. And so they speak in certain ways that bankers, speak like. And I think there's times where their websites are so technical or so bank speak, they forget that the end user is just a customer who just wants to get on that website and get the answers to their questions. I also think that some of these websites are trying to do too much information sharing. Your people are coming to your website. They need just a few things. They need to log in. That's the number one thing people are doing on a bank website. Let's be real. Every Google Analytics report I run for clients on their bank websites, the number one link is login. Okay. So that's what your customers are coming to do, is to log in and see what their balances are. The second thing they might want to do is find out where your locations are or give you a phone call. People do still pick up their phones and call you. And I'm so shocked how many bank websites you really have to dig down at the bottom of the page to find a phone number. So if that's the case for a listener, I would say move that phone number up to the top right where people can easily access it. And then your hours. People want to know, if I'm going to leave my house and come to the bank to do some business, when are you open? Are you open when I think you are? I want to go see the hours. I think sometimes these banks are getting caught up in just putting everything they can, not only on the homepage, but just throughout the website. And they're forgetting that people are just coming there to answer some very simple questions, because what we really want that human to do, that customer, is to interact with the people in the bank, right? Like, come to the website, get the quick answer, and then learn more. Call, email, reach out, come to the branch. That's really should be the goal of your website.
And then, Allyson, are most of the people that are going to the bank's website, are there customers, or do you find that there is a good flow of potential customers that are going to websites?
Absolutely. I see that in the Google Analytics. Those are usually tracked as new users. So whether they're fresh new customers that have just joined the bank, and so they're looking at the website for the first time. But I think if you live in communities where a lot of people are moving in, and that's certainly a place where I live, people move in, they Google, where should I bank? Banks near me. That's a very common search term. And so, yes, they're looking around at your website to decide, is this someplace that I want to bank or I want to do business with? But primarily, your website is there to answer the questions and take care of the customers you have, and also entice new customers to want to do business with you.
And do you recommend, or maybe not recommend, that if a prospect or a prospective customer, if you will, goes to the website, that the bank attempts to capture their information by having some type of value add, or is that kind of anti-bank, if you will?
I love that. I mean, none of us love a pop-up. Let's be real. It's holiday season. Everybody's starting to do a lot of online shopping. And the one thing that drives everyone insane is you're trying to get to a website and the pop-up is like, hi, we want to give you 10% off. Give us your email, right? But those are there for a reason. It's data gathering. We want to know who's been on the site and can we send you some more information, right? So I think there are some ways to do that isn't so frustrating. But yes, if you're not trying to capture a little information from your visitors to your website, then I think you're really missing out. And I think there's ways to do it that doesn't just frustrate a customer. There's ways to, like, once the customer sees it the first time, the future times they come to the website, they don't see the pop-up again. There's ways to slide it in. But yeah, I think you need to be trying to capture some of that data so that, back to my point of people moving to your community and checking out banks, wouldn't it be great if you then could send them an email and said, hey, we hope you choose us. Here's all the great things about our bank, and we'd love to work with you. An email
Absolutely.
like that or a message like that would go a long way to someone who's just moved to your community.
Now, what do you recommend that banks should avoid on their websites?
The bank websites I see that sort of perplex me are the ones that are just so well. One, they're very what I call just banky. A lot of bank speak that doesn't really speak to the customer. So there's that. Two, I want to see real people on your website. And look, I know it's risky. People come and go at your bank, but you have people at your website that you trust that are going to be there for the long term. Put some of these folks on your website so that I can tell that real humans work there, and that's someone that I might go to church with, or I might be in, coach little league with. I think banks are really missing out on that human touch by providing some real photography on their websites. Or I even like great photos of their communities. Show that you're a real community leader by utilizing some great tourism photography on your website, things like that. I think some bank websites make it very hard to find those few things that I mentioned earlier that the customers really want. The login ought to be front and center. That's what people are doing. Then it ought to be a way to contact them, whether that's an email or a phone number, your locations and your hours. And the last thing I would say about locations, I see this all the time. You go to the locations tab and they give you a search bar. Well, I don't know what your locations are. I just want to see a list of where you have branches. Maybe I'm traveling and I just want to know if there's going to be a branch close to where I'm traveling. If I have to put in, Cincinnati or something, that's just sort of defeating the purpose. List out your locations in a nice, easy format so I can tell where all your branches are. I think that's just here's what I always tell clients. Let's don't make the customer do extra work. So if your website is making the customers do work, you're failing. And this is as simple as if I have to click 3 things to find out what your CD rate is or how to open a checking account, I'm out. I've wasted 3 minutes of my life. I'm moving on.
That is
Make it really easy. Yes, right?
Great advice. Great advice. Well, let me ask you this. What are you seeing with the apps that banks have developed and are using? Good, bad, or indifferent?
I'm seeing some really good apps out there, and that's thanks to a lot of great, bank core software companies. So again, with the apps, people, I always joke that you can't mess with 2 things, right? You don't mess with people's money and you don't mess with people's kids. And when your customer goes into your app, they just want to make sure their money's there. They want to see their balances, right? So make sure that your app is clean and easy to use, because here's what you're up against. There are some amazing apps out there in the world. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite apps, and this is going to sound so silly, is Chipotle. There's nothing I love more than building a bowl on the Chipotle app. It's so easy to use. The interface is fantastic. And in a minute and a half, I've got a bowl built, bought, and ready to pick up. So customers are so used to these easy, clean, beautiful, kind of anticipatory apps. So then when they get to your bank app, and if it's slow and it's hard to navigate and I can't find anything, your customers are going to look for a bank app that works a lot like the Chipotle app or social media, apps that they're using, because that is just the way of the world today. Fast, clean, good information. I want to get in and get out and move on with my life.
So I can hear the conversation you have with your customers is they're saying, but it's better than the other banks. And I can hear you saying, but is it as good as Chipotle?
But is it as good as Chipotle? That's right. And they do say that to me, and I'll ask them, have you used their app? Because one of the things that's interesting about our team is that we all bank somewhere differently. So I ask everyone on the team, how your bank's app and what does it do well? And let's make sure that our customers have some of those features that you like, on your app. I think all of these apps have an ability to send messages to their customers, and I don't think a lot of banks are using that technology when they should be. I think that, again, you just need to make sure all the buttons are in the right place, and it's super easy. If for the listeners, if you are ever frustrated by the app you're using, your bank app, your customers are really frustrated because you're the banker and you know more than your customer does about banking. So just imagine how frustrated they are.
Well, you had mentioned email marketing before. I got kind of a 2-part question for you. What are banks doing well with email marketing? And then what mistakes are they making with email marketing?
Surprisingly, a lot of the customers we work with do not have an email marketing plan. They have potentially they're able to email through their core when they really need to, or they'll send those emails that are like, thank you for depositing a check and your check was approved to be deposited. They have that type of stuff, but they don't have the email marketing that I really like to help banks get. And it became really prevalent this year when the Silicon Valley Bank situation happened. Every bank in the country really wanted to put their customers' minds at ease. And some of these banks did not have email marketing set up, so they had to do this either through snail mail, and good luck getting those opened, or they had to do it on social media, which, there were things that I think banks wanted to say to their customers they didn't really want to put out publicly. So with the customers we have that had email marketing, we wrote up those messages and sent it to them in their inbox, where it's private, it's just to them. We can see who opened it, who didn't open it. We could resend to the folks who didn't open it. I'm really a geek about data. There's so much great data in the back of these email marketing softwares that I really like. What are your customers clicking on? One of our bank clients, and this goes back to my point about the login button on your website, every email we would send for one of our customers, the number one clicked thing on the email, no matter what we said in the email, whether it was CD rates or a new branch, whatever, the number one clicked thing was login. It was they wanted to go see how much money was in their account. So I really love email marketing. I know we all get a ton of emails to our inbox, and it could seem counterintuitive, but I think banks are missing a real opportunity to build a relationship with their customers in their inboxes. And I'm not telling you, I always joke, don't be Sephora. The makeup store, will email you 32 times a day if you let them. I am not saying that. I'm saying a monthly email, getting your customers in the groove of getting an email from you each month, so that when something like the Silicon Valley situation happens, they're used to seeing that email in their inbox. They open it, they read your message, they understand that everything's safe and sound at your bank. They're going about their day. I just, I'm a big proponent of email marketing. I want all of these banks to get on it. And I think the mistake some of them are making is they're just not taking it seriously. They're either not on it at all. They don't have a plan. The other thing we can do with email marketing is we welcome new customers. When you join the bank as a new customer and you get that welcome email, hey, we're so glad you joined our bank. Here's a little bit about our bank you might want to know. Then in a week, they get that second email that says, hey, have you signed up for digital banking and e-statements? There's so much we could be doing in email marketing, moving the customer through the sales process, right? And making sure that they use every service the bank has to offer.
Well, Allyson, is it as simple as them not having an email marketing platform?
It's sometimes that simple, and sometimes it's a conversation with IT where IT is not comfortable with an email marketing platform. And I get it. Like, I certainly understand that, but a lot of times I just say, look to your regional sized or your larger banks. They're using that same email marketing platform, so it works for their IT department. It might take a little more research or digging to make it work for a smaller IT department.
Well, I want to go a little bit further on what you said. I think it was a brilliant point. I'm a new customer to the bank, and I did whatever I did to go in and open an account, if I did it online or whatever happens to be. And banks talk about onboarding a lot. And to your point is, we have a very cost-effective way to help onboard a client. And not that it's exclusively email, but it's a great supplement, to your point, to that onboarding process, to make me, the new customer, feel, wow, these people are really on top of it. They really care. And that's a part of the process, but it can be a very cost-effective part of that onboarding process.
Absolutely. Yes, they walk in the branch, or they open an account on your website. I mean, folks are doing that as well. If you're not careful, you'll never talk to that customer again. I mean, they'll bank with you and they'll use your app, but is that it? Is that all don't you want to have a relationship with them so that when they buy their first house, or when they need a CD rate, or when they need a credit card? I mean, there's just so many things that, and look, and I think it goes back to what I say. I think the banker mentality is, they know all the things the bank offers and they know all the banks speak. But I think sometimes there's a disconnect in what the customer knows. And we have to constantly be educating the customer. We can't just assume the customer understands why CD rates are so good, or what a CD even is, or why they should put money into one. I overeducate. don't just assume that your customers know what you're offering. Over educate them. If they know, they move on. If they don't know, they learn, and maybe they take more action, or they get more services, or they move more accounts to your bank. Every bank right now in the country is looking for deposits. I believe some of your deposit growth is right in your customer base right now. You're just not asking them to join deeper to your bank.
It's a great point. Well, Allyson, everybody's into social media. What advice are you giving your banks in this area?
I like to tell my bank clients that, going viral versus providing value. Going viral is very hard, and sometimes it's not even for the best reasons. So, I know a lot of bank marketers out there have heard their CEOs or board members say, we need to go viral. We need to post it that'll, go viral. Well, be careful what you wish for. What I help my bank clients understand is, let's provide value. Let's stop trying to push content for algorithms or going viral, and let's make sure that all the social content we're pushing is valuable to the customer. And it doesn't always have to be about banking. It could be inspirational, educational. You can make them laugh, share about your people. The only differentiator most banks have on the corner with the other 12 banks is the people that work in that branch. So use them, push them out on social media, have your customers get to know these folks so they build relationships, and they don't want to leave your bank because they don't want to leave Sally, right? And the other thing I'll say is, if all you can do one platform well. Be really careful about all the new social media bells and whistles and platforms that are coming out. Not everything is meant for you. Pick a platform. It's probably Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram. And maybe it's all three. And if you have the bandwidth to do all three well, do it. But if you don't, pick one and do it really, really well, and just own that. I think that one thing I would tell your listeners is, the person in your bank doing social media, check on them. Social media is hard. It is stressful. It leads to burnout. I see it all the time. We support a lot of our clients with social media, and it's not just, post or set it and forget it. If you're doing it well, it's coming up with content, it's coming up with a caption, it's posting, it's engaging, it's commenting. Banks should be going out with their social media and loving on other businesses and community organizations. And if you really are doing all of that, that person doing that for you, which by the way is typically also doing 10 other things at the bank, they're tired. And I think you need to check on those people and make sure that they're okay and they have all the resources they need to be successful doing social media for your bank.
That's great advice. Well, Allyson, what will banks be doing in terms of marketing 3 years from now, do you think?
Well, I just attended a couple of bank conferences, and AI is on the front of everyone's mind. And I think it's here to stay, obviously. And I think that it's going to be a big thing for banking, and not only in the process of banking, but also potentially in the marketing side of banking. And I would just say, be cautious, ease in. I'm a Gen Xer, and I'm a proud Gen X, the forgotten generation. And I have to really laugh because I really don't like self checkout. I still really like seeing a human being and having them check me out. And then my millennial and Gen Z friends, they love self checkout. So we love to have these conversations about it. I think that I've just lately this week, I've been seeing articles where Costco and Walmart are reconsidering self checkout because customers don't like it. So I think banks need to pay attention, because there's a part of me that feels like banks should think about self checkout for customers. Like, what all can the app do for a customer? Customers are busy. They don't want to come into the branch. What more could you offer in the drive-through so that it's more efficient for a customer to get all the things they need to get done in the drive-through? But don't take away that human person, right? Like, be careful that you go so far into AI or so far into self checkout that we all wake up one day and go, where are all the humans? And look, if you've called any company lately or a Walgreens and you've gotten that AI, you're in that AI loop of that customer service, hellscape that I call it. You miss a human being just answering the phone and saying, Chris, what do you need?
Well, I'm a baby boomer, and I just start pushing zero over and over and over again until I get that.
Exactly. But Gen Z, they love it. They don't really need the interaction. So make sure that there's banking services and apps and things for them, because you know everything I'm reading, I'm so fascinated by this transfer of wealth that's about to happen in the next decade, right? Like trillions of dollars are going to be transferred from boomers to millennials and Gen Z. So these folks need to bank somewhere, right? And you're going to have to build processes and things that appeal to Gen Z. And they're not going to call you. They're not going to come into the branch. They really do love a self checkout idea. And so during the pandemic, when all the branches were closed, I got to thinking, man, the drive through just very valuable. And so even though the pandemic is over and people are going back to branches, I think you should still be thinking about what all can you offer in the drive through that really gets customers in and out and on their way.
Well, you mentioned AI. Do you think that bank marketing departments will start using, the chat GPTs of the world
Mm-hmm.
to create marketing content? And do you think it's a great place for them to start that building the content, and then obviously not relying on chat GPT just as the end all be all, but then using that and modifying it?
Mm-hmm. I think that many times you see, like I said, a 1 or 2 person marketing team. And one of the things that we're really struggling with is ideas. So I think Chat GPT is a great place to brainstorm. Like treat it like a third team member and ask it, questions like, how would you we have a community bank, and we'd like to build deposits. Give me 10 ideas on how we could build deposit or grow deposits, and see what chat spits out. And sometimes there's going to be a little nugget in there that you can take and run with it. And yes, to your point, we are, none of us are ready to let chat GPT take the reins. Okay. It's just a tool that I think we can use to make our ideas better, or give us some inspiration when we're really struggling to come up with another way to say we do mortgages, right? Go to Chat GPT and say, I'm going to do a billboard. I want to push mortgages. Give me 5 headlines of how I could tell customers that we do mortgages, and see what it says, and see if there's something in there that'll help you then finesse what it gave you to make it work for your bank.
Well, Allison, I think what's really interesting, I'm seeing a lot of banks block Chat GPT from corporate computers. And then what I would consider the industrious bankers or marketing people, what they're doing is they're going home at night and then they're doing it on their personal computer. And I certainly understand the security concerns
Oh,
that
yeah.
banks have, because it could get them in trouble. But I think they're going to have to figure out, hey, how do we take advantage of that great technology to help us do more for our customers and then also attract prospects? And the example that you gave was so spot on. But unfortunately, most marketers have to go home and do it on their home computer.
Chris, I remember I'll celebrate 9 years in 2024. And I remember, so it's not been that long ago that banks weren't even letting their people be on Facebook. There was still a time there where Facebook was, the first real social media platform, and compliance and IT was like, oh no, we're not going to be on Facebook. And then it was like, okay, we'll let you be on Facebook, but we have to approve everything that goes out. And now you got banks on TikTok. So yes, I think that it'll evolve eventually, where more and more bank IT departments and boards will get more comfortable with AI. And AI, it's the Wild West, right? It's brand new. And so, yes, thank you for saying that to any of the marketers out there. Do it at home, get some ideas, bring it back to the office next day, and keep moving forward with your marketing efforts.
Well, Allyson, you shared some great ideas. If one of our listeners wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Oh, we love that. So my email is Allyson at thetwiggsgroup.com, and our website is thetwiggsgroup.com. So that's easy. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn, all the things. I would love anybody to reach out if they just want to talk marketing, or they have an idea, or they, have an issue and they want us to help them with that. We love working with banks, and some of our favorite people are bank marketers because, like I said, they're wearing many hats in the banks, and we're able to just come in sometimes and relieve some of that pressure so that they get back to doing what they really love, and we can help them with what we really love, which is marketing banks.
Well, Allyson, I know you have a lot going on. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to visit with us today.
Oh, Chris, this was such a pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm a huge fan of the folks at GSBC and Boulder Banking, and so I'm just honored to be here.
We're glad to have you. Thanks, Allyson.